Look, drop the act, honey. We know the bill is fake.
Sir, I checked it twice. It is real money. Please listen.
Stop with the attitude. You're turning a misdemeanor into a felony.
I am not catching an attitude.
That's it. Turn around. You are coming with us right now.
My husband is a litigator. You are making a huge mistake.
Tuesday late afternoon, 1642, humid. The wide-angle Bodycam view makes the cramped SwiftPack Logistics back office look even tighter than it is. Fluorescent tubes buzz overhead, that thin electric whine that never quits. Glare flickers across a laminated counter. Naomi Walker is pinned beside a tall filing cabinet, arms crossed tight over her blue work polo name badge clipped on, forcing her hands to stay visible. The break room door behind her is shut, but a child's heel keeps tapping on a chair leg inside, impatient and scared. Store policy is clear: the on-duty manager stays with any currency verification request until it is documented and logged. Leaving before a case number is given can be framed as obstruction. Naomi can feel the trap tightening, and her throat is already dry. Agent Blake Thorne's suit jacket stretched at the shoulders leans in until his tie almost brushes her forearm. He crowds the space, blocking the exit line with his body. His breath smells like mints and aggression. The security camera dome in the corner blinks its slow red rhythm, recording an injustice in real time. Thorne doesn't see discipline. He sees a uniform and a woman he thinks he can shrink. Look, drop the act, honey. We know the bill is fake. Don't play smart with me, sweetheart. You're just a cashier, Thorne adds like the job title is a verdict. Naomi's stomach tightened into a hard, cold knot. She kept her voice steady, pitching it low to avoid escalating the man's obvious volatility. Sir, I checked it twice. It is real money. Please listen. Stop with the attitude. You're turning a misdemeanor into a felony. Thorne's finger rises into frame and jabs the air inches from Naomi's cheek, close enough to feel the heat from his hand. The word felony hung in the air, heavy and sharp. Naomi felt the blood drain from her fingertips. Behind the thin drywall of the break room door to her left, she could hear the faint, rhythmic thump-thump of her 6-year-old daughter, Maya, kicking her heels against a chair. Maya was waiting for her dad to pick her up. If Maya came out now, panic flared in Naomi's chest, hot and suffocating. She had to keep this man here away from that door. I am not catching an attitude. I am doing my job. Thorne's patience, thin as tissue paper, snapped. He slammed his hand onto the counter, making a stapler jump. That's it, turn around. You are coming with us right now. He reached for his belt. The metallic snick of handcuffs unlatching was the loudest sound in the world. My husband is a litigator. You are making a huge mistake. I don't care if your husband is the Pope, Thorne interrupted, spinning her around with unnecessary force. He grabbed her wrist, twisting it behind her back until the joint screamed in protest. You are under arrest for passing counterfeit currency and obstruction of a federal investigation. The cold steel of the cuffs bit into her skin, pinching the delicate flesh of her wrist. Naomi gasped, the pain sharp and immediate. Mommy! The small voice came from the break room door. It cracked open a few inches. Maya's face appeared wide-eyed and confused. Thorne glanced at the child, then back at Naomi, a smirk touching his lips. Looks like someone's calling Child Protective Services, too. Naomi's world tilted on its axis. The fear wasn't for herself anymore. It was a primal, terrified roar for her child. She fought the urge to scream, forcing her body to go limp, to offer no resistance that he could document as a struggle. Don't touch her, Naomi whispered, the sound scraping her throat. Please. Thorne didn't answer. He shoved Naomi toward the back exit, the cuffs ratcheting tighter with every step. Tuesday, late afternoon, 16:55, humid. The exterior of the strip mall was bathed in the gray, flat light of a humid Tennessee afternoon. The asphalt radiated heat, distorting the air above the parked cars. Thorne marched Naomi toward a black sedan parked illegally in the fire lane. A second agent, younger, with nervous follower energy written in his posture, stood by the hood. Put her in, Thorne commanded. Sir, she's the manager, the younger agent, whose lanyard identified him as Agent Miller, asked hesitantly. She's a suspect who tried to pass a supernote and then gave me attitude. Thorne lied effortlessly. He adds louder for the shoppers watching, minimum wage attitude doesn't change federal law. Thorne keys his radio like he's rehearsing a narrative for later review. Dispatch be advised. Subject is non-compliant, refusing commands, reaching around in the office. He opened the back door and pushed Naomi inside. The car smelled of stale fast food and leather polish. The door slammed shut, cutting off the ambient noise of traffic, sealing her in a silence that felt like a coffin. Naomi shifted, trying to alleviate the pressure on her wrists. Her hands were already going numb. She took a deep breath, counting to 4, holding for 4, exhaling for 4, process, procedure, don't panic. She looked out the tinted window. Thorne was arguing with Miller, pointing back at the store. Naomi's eyes darted to the store's glass front. Through the window, she saw a figure enter the shop, a tall man in a tailored charcoal suit, moving with the fluid, predatory grace of someone who owned every room he walked into. Xavier. He looked around the empty counter, then toward the open office door. He paused. He saw the empty chair. He saw Maya standing in the doorway, clutching her backpack, tears streaming down her face. Naomi saw Xavier drop to one knee, speaking to Maya. A moment later, he stood up. His body language changed. The warmth vanished. His posture became rigid, lethal. He pulled his phone from his pocket, tapped a button, and held it to his ear as he walked out the front door, scanning the parking lot. His eyes locked onto the black sedan. Thorne was leaning against the driver's side door, typing on his phone. He didn't notice the man approaching until a shadow fell over him. "Excuse me," Xavier said. His voice was a low baritone, smooth as velvet, but cold as ice. "You seem to have my wife in your vehicle." Thorne looked up, annoyed. He saw a black man in a suit and immediately categorized him. Another one. "Step back, sir," Thorne said, not holstering his phone. "Federal operation. This area is restricted." "I see no tape," Xavier said, glancing at the ground. "And I see no badge displayed on your person. Identify yourself." Thorne bristled. He stood up straight, puffing out his chest, trying to use height to intimidate. Xavier didn't flinch. He just watched Thorne with the unblinking intensity of a hawk spotting a field mouse. "Special Agent Thorne, Secret Service. Now back the hell up before I put you in there with her for obstruction." Xavier smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile a shark gives before the water turns red. "Obstruction," Xavier repeated, tasting the word. "Interesting choice. My name is Xavier Wright. I am Mrs. Walker's legal counsel, and you are currently detaining her without reading her rights, without a warrant, and, judging by the lack of a secure evidence bag in your hand, without properly securing the alleged counterfeit note." Thorne blinked. The legal jargon was precise, delivered with the cadence of a courtroom veteran. He faltered for a microsecond, then doubled down. "She passed a fake 100. She's in custody. We're transporting her for processing." "Processing where?" Xavier asked, pulling a small notebook from his pocket. He didn't use a pen. He held up his phone, the screen showing a voice memo recording. "State the venue and the case number." "We don't need to give you that," Thorne sneered. "Drive Miller." Thorne moved to open the driver's door. Xavier stepped into the space between Thorne and the handle. He didn't touch the agent. He just occupied the geometry of the situation. "If you move this vehicle 1 inch with my wife inside without stating the basis, the case number, and the destination," Xavier said, his voice dropping an octave, "an emergency federal petition and an individual civil rights claim will be filed tonight with your badge number on every page. Do you understand me, Agent Thorne?" Thorne laughed. It was a nervous, incredulous sound. "You think you can scare me with big words? Move!" He shoved past Xavier. Xavier stumbled back slightly, ensuring the contact was captured by the store's exterior CCTV camera mounted above the door. "Assault," Xavier noted calmly into his phone. "Agent initiated physical contact, 1658. Thorne slammed the door and started the engine. Xavier didn't bang on the window. He didn't scream. He simply lifted his phone and took a high-resolution photo of the license plate, then a photo of Thorne's face through the glass. As the sedan pulled away, Xavier didn't chase it. He turned back to the store. He had work to do. Tuesday, early evening, 17:15, overcast. The holding room at the local field office was a sterile box of cinder blocks, painted a depressing shade of beige. Naomi sat on a metal bench, one wrist cuffed to the bar. The air conditioning was set to Arctic, a common tactic to induce shivering and anxiety. Thorne entered carrying a clipboard. He looked relaxed, the master of his domain. He threw a plastic bag on the table. Inside was a crumpled $100 bill. "Here's the deal, Naomi," Thorne said, using her first name with unearned familiarity. "We verify this, it comes back fake. You're looking at 5 years. Federal pen, not a fun place for a mother." Naomi's breath hitched at the mention of her status as a mother. She forced herself to focus on the wall behind him. "But," Thorne continued, clicking a pen, "I'm a reasonable guy. You didn't know right. Just a mistake. You signed this admission stating you accepted the bill without following protocol, and we let you go with a citation. You walk out tonight." He slid the paper toward her. It was a trap, a confession disguised as a release form. Naomi looked at the paper. The text was dense, but the words, admission of negligence, stood out in bold. I can't sign that, Naomi said quietly. Why not? Thorne asked, his voice hardening. You want to go home to your kid, don't you? I followed protocol, Naomi said, her voice gaining strength. I ran the bill through the safe scan 2550. It passed. I used the marker. It passed. I held it to the light. The strip was there. That bill is real. Thorne slammed his hand on the table again. The machine is broken. The marker is old. You are lying to me. Check the logs, Naomi said. The safe scan keeps a digital log of every scan. Serial number and result. It's on the cloud. Thorne paused. He hadn't expected that. Most retail counters used cheap pens. He didn't know SwiftPack Logistics was a high-volume franchise with bank-grade tech. We'll check everything, Thorne hissed. But right now, you sit here and think about your daughter growing up without you. He stormed out, leaving Naomi alone in the cold silence. She closed her eyes and visualized Xavier. He's coming. He's always prepared. Tuesday, early evening. 17:30 rainy. Back at the SwiftPack store, the atmosphere was controlled chaos. Xavier had locked the front door and flipped the sign to closed. Maya was sitting on the counter, eating a bag of chips from the vending machine, watching cartoons on Xavier's iPad. She was calm now, anchored by her father's unshakable presence. Xavier was behind the counter operating the main terminal. He wasn't alone. Two uniformed Nashville Metro police officers, Officer Griggs and Officer Wu, were standing in the lobby, looking uncomfortable. Sir, we can't force the feds to release her, Officer Griggs said, shifting his weight. It's their jurisdiction. I'm not asking you to release her, Xavier said, his fingers flying across the keyboard. I'm asking you to take a report for a kidnapping. Kidnapping? Wu frowned. Mr. Wright, that's a stretch. It was a lawful arrest. Was it? Xavier hit enter. A loading bar appeared on the screen. Cloud Archive Retrieval. 1630 to 1700. He selected Export with Receipt. The system generated a confirmation window with a file hash camera ID and the user ID tied to the request. Xavier printed the export receipt and emailed the PDF to a dedicated evidence inbox, then CC'd Griggs' official city address, so the acknowledgement left an audit trail outside the store. Seconds later, an automated reply hit Xavier's screen received, along with a timestamp and a message that the hash would be verified on upload. An arrest requires probable cause, Xavier lectured, his eyes glued to the screen. Probable cause requires evidence that a crime was committed. If the bill was real, there is no crime. If there is no crime, the arrest is unlawful. If the arrest is unlawful and they moved her against her will, that is kidnapping. The agent said the bill was fake, Griggs argued. The agent lied, Xavier said simply. The computer beeped. A red error message popped up, connection timeout. Retrying. A low battery chirp stuttered from one of the officer's body cams, one beep, then another, cutting through the fluorescent hum. The kind of small tech imperfection that becomes a problem when the clock matters. Xavier's face tightened. The store's internet was acting up and the storm clouds outside were already dragging the satellite link. SwiftPack's DVR overwrote on a rolling cycle. If the clean export didn't happen before the next overwrite window, the defense could claim missing footage. If the power blinked during an export, the file could corrupt. Near loss wasn't dramatic. It was technical. Come on, Xavier whispered. He pulled the company-approved failover hotspot from his briefcase, logged into the archive under his authorized admin credentials, and connected the terminal through the secure gateway. Switching to redundancy. Mr. Wright, we really should go, Griggs said, checking his watch. We can't stand here watching you play IT guy. You will wait, Xavier commanded, not looking up, because in 30 seconds I'm going to show you a felony committed by a federal agent in your precinct. And if you walk away, you become accessories after the fact. The officers exchanged a glance. They didn't leave. The screen refreshed. Archive loaded. Here we go, Xavier said. He clicked on the file labeled CAM_04_POS_overhead. The video opened. High-definition 4K footage. The angle looked straight down at the counter. Watch! Xavier pointed. On screen, Naomi took the bill from a customer, an older woman, not the agent. She ran it through the machine. A bright green light flashed on the machine's display. Pass. See that? Xavier froze the frame. Green light. The bill is genuine. He fast-forwarded. Thorne entered the frame. He didn't hand Naomi a bill. He slapped a badge on the counter and demanded to see the cash drawer. He didn't even make a purchase, Xavier noted. He was conducting a random audit without a warrant. The video played. Thorne reached into the drawer, grabbed the top bill, the one Naomi had just put in, and held it up. He squinted at it for less than a second before shouting, "Now look closely." Xavier zoomed in on the freeze frame of the bill in Thorne's hand. "Officer Wu, you have young eyes. Read me the serial number on that bill." Wu leaned in. "LGQ 4429. LGQ 4429, Xavier repeated. He opened a second window, the digital log from the safe scan machine. Log entry 1640, LGQ 4429, A, result pass, denom $100. It matched, Wu said, surprised. The machine said it was good. "Now watch this," Xavier said, his voice dropping to a whisper. On the video, Thorne turned his body away from the camera, blocking the view of his hands with his torso. He reached into his own jacket pocket. A subtle movement. A shuffle. When he turned back, he slammed a bill onto the counter. Xavier went frame by frame. "There!" He zoomed in on the bill Thorne slammed down. Officer Wu read the serial number on the bill he slams down. Wu squinted. "BKL 881. Wait, that's a different number." The silence in the room was absolute. The hum of the refrigerator in the back was the only sound. "BKL 881, Xavier said. He swapped it. He palmed the real bill and replaced it with a prop he brought with him. "Holy," Griggs muttered. "Planted evidence," Xavier said. "He didn't just make a mistake. He framed her." Xavier turned to the officers. "Now, do I have probable cause for a kidnapping report?" Griggs pulled out his radio. His face was grim. "Dispatch, this is Unit 4 Alpha. We need a supervisor at the SwiftPack on Briarcliff. And get me the watch commander at the Federal Building. Yeah, it's urgent." Tuesday evening, 1810 rainy. The interrogation room door opened. Thorne walked in looking smug. "Good news, Naomi. My supervisor is here. He wants to witness your signature on the release form. Then you can go." Naomi looked up. She was exhausted, hungry, and her wrist throbbed, but she shook her head. "No, don't be stupid," Thorne growled. "You sign, you walk." "She won't be signing anything," a voice boomed from the hallway. Thorne spun around. Standing in the doorway was his assistant special agent in charge, ASAC, a stern woman named Director Holloway. Behind her stood Xavier Wright holding a tablet, and behind him, 2 Nashville police officers. "Sir," Thorne stammered, "I was just processing the—" "Shut up, Agent Thorne," Holloway said. Her voice was quiet, deadly. "Step away from the suspect." "Suspect?" Xavier interjected, stepping into the room. He didn't look at Thorne. He went straight to Naomi. He knelt beside her, checking her wrists. "You okay?" Naomi let out a breath she felt she'd been holding for 2 hours. She nodded, tears finally spilling over. I told him it was real." "I know," Xavier whispered. "We got him." Xavier stood up and faced Thorne. He held up the tablet. "Director Holloway has seen the footage, Agent Thorne," Xavier said. "The footage of you performing a sleight-of-hand magic trick with a Federal Reserve note." Thorne's face went pale. The angle is misleading. We also have the machine logs," Xavier continued, relentless, "and the serial number mismatch. You arrested a woman for doing her job perfectly because you needed an arrest to pad your stats, or maybe just because you didn't like her face. Which was it?" Thorne looked at Holloway. "Director, this is a misunderstanding. The husband, he's twisting—" "Save it for the OPR interview," Holloway said. She turned to the police officers. "Officers, you have jurisdiction for the state charges. We will handle the federal obstruction charges internally." Officer Griggs stepped forward, unhooking his handcuffs. "Blake Thorne, turn around. You are under arrest for evidence tampering, filing a false report, and unlawful imprisonment." Thorne's mouth fell open. "You can't arrest me. I'm a federal agent." "Not right now, you're not," Griggs said, spinning him around. The click of the cuffs was identical to the sound Thorne had made earlier, but to Naomi it sounded like a symphony. "My husband is a litigator," Naomi said softly to Thorne's back as they marched him out. "I tried to tell you." Thorne didn't look back. Friday night, 1940. Clear. The conference room in the federal courthouse was lined with mahogany and expensive leather. On one side of the table sat Xavier, Naomi, and a team of junior associates. On the other side sat the U.S. Attorney and the legal counsel for the Secret Service. The room was silent. Xavier slid a single piece of paper across the polished wood. "This is the settlement demand," Xavier said. The U.S. Attorney picked it up. He adjusted his glasses. He sighed. $8.4 million, the government lawyer asked. Mr. Wright, that is unprecedented for a detention that lasted less than 3 hours. The duration is irrelevant, Xavier said, leaning back. The damage is the breach of public trust. Agent Thorne falsified evidence. He targeted a minority business manager based on bias. He traumatized a 6-year-old child. And he did it while wearing your badge. Xavier tapped the table. We are also demanding a policy change. Mandatory bodycam activation for all field interactions involving currency verification, and a third-party audit of Agent Thorne's previous 20 arrests. We believe this wasn't his first time. The government lawyer looked at his colleagues. They whispered. They knew the video would destroy them in a jury trial. The footage of the magic trick swap was viral dynamite waiting to explode. If we agree to the amount, the U.S. attorney said, we need a non-disclosure agreement. No, Naomi spoke up. It was the first time she had spoken in the meeting. Her voice was clear, steady. No NDA. The apology must be public, and the policy change must be published. The lawyers looked at Xavier. He shrugged. She's the boss. The U.S. attorney closed his folder. We'll draft the papers. The check arrived 2 weeks later. $8.4 million. But the real victory came in the mail a month after that. A letter from the Department of Justice. Dear Mrs. Walker, please be advised that former Agent Blake Thorne has pleaded guilty to 1 count of deprivation of rights under color of law and 1 count of obstruction of justice. He has been sentenced to 36 months in federal prison and is permanently barred from federal employment. Naomi sat at her kitchen table watching Maya play in the backyard. The fear of that day had faded, replaced by a quiet, steel-reinforced confidence. She picked up her phone and texted Xavier, who was at his office downtown. It came. He's going away. Xavier's reply came instantly. Justice isn't just about being right. It's about proving it. Love you. Naomi put the phone down. She looked at the sunlight hitting the grass. The system had tried to crush her, but it had broken its teeth on the evidence. In high-pressure situations with authority figures, your greatest weapon is not your voice volume, it is your documentation. Preserve the chain. If you are accused of something involving an object like a bill or a receipt demand, it be logged immediately. Tech is your witness. Modern point-of-sale systems often log serial numbers. Use that. Ask for the transaction log or audit trail. Stay calm to win. Reacting with anger gives them the disorderly excuse they need. Reacting with, yes, sir, please verify the log, traps them in procedure. Justice is slow. It didn't happen in the car. It happened months later in a conference room. Survival first, lawsuit second. Justice isn't loud, it's documented. Some elements are selectively fictionalized for education.